All right, so it is 9 a.m. here on the East Coast, USA, and it is 4 p.m. in Kosovo, where our presenter is. We are exchanging emails with him. He was not able to log in on time because we had so many visitors here in the webinar room that apparently there was no room for the most important person, the presenter. So now some people volunteered and left the room and are watching on YouTube. And so hopefully Alextin Berisha will be able to join us any second now. So let's see what's going on here, and just check if I send him the right link. FTP, yeah, that should be the one. Sometimes for security reasons, apparently, Google Live would send update the link from time to time, and so that messes things up. All right. So now I see we have quite a few people watching us on YouTube, and then there are many people right here in the webinar room. So once the presenter is here, the goal for today's session is not so much to talk about the company as we did the first time, where the company representative talks and we listen. This time the goal is to give him an overview of the ideas we have in mind for his company and ask for his feedback and perhaps maybe some, I don't know, comments. His feedback will allow people in the late track to do a better job while they still have a couple of weeks. And so hopefully they will be able to take his advice, incorporate it in their work, and while they still can improve their reports so that they're even more interesting for the company. I did prepare some summaries of what students have in mind in their work, and while they still can, in a second. Based on what you've been submitting every week. And so my hope is that, again, some of you will do a more, not a formal, but a more structured presentation of the work by your team. So I have no idea why he's not joining us, so let me try to call him. Yes, technology is great, but not perfect. So let's see if I will be able to reach Kosovo from my phone. While I'm dialing, I will also say that Finnish Schools International is one of the two most popular companies this semester. And so while it is not possible to say with good ideas for the company, hopefully many of you are working, so at least someone will come up with a good idea. But it seems to me that at the very least, it means that you do believe in the concept in the company. Yes, Alishin, so what's going on? We are waiting for you. The login is not working? Yeah, can you maybe try one more time? Because I think what happened when you called us before, there were so many people waiting for you. Oh, yes, I see you. So I'm going to hang up on
I think I am now. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. As I was saying to the students, you're so popular, your company is so popular that you've been chosen by like 200 teams.
Wow. Thank you so much.
In the live webinar room. And so there were so many of them that they took up all the spaces and we didn't have the room for you. So now I asked some people to volunteer and watch us on YouTube. And so there are still about 10 people here with us. But
okay. I don't know what was happening. I could not connect. I tried many times and I had to install some new plugins and it wasn't working again. So sorry about this.
No, more likely than not, it was just because so many people, so many attendees that we just didn't have the room for the most important one. So, but as I was just telling the students, so the plan for today is a little different than the first time. So we did hear your introductions. So today I invited the students to talk, and then you would hopefully provide some feedback on what they have to say. And, you know, maybe some ideas you like and want them to explore more, and maybe some ideas are, I don't know, not interesting, or you tried it and you don't know it doesn't work, or maybe based on you will say, okay, all of this is good, but can you also do this, this, and this, because maybe I don't see that in your work. So whatever you think will make the work, the reports more interesting to you, today is your opportunity to tell it to the students. And obviously we don't have an opportunity to give all 200 teams an opportunity to present. But at the same time, you know, hopefully the ones that will have a chance to talk to you are more or less representative of the general crowd. And so whatever they will hear, whatever you will have to say to them, hopefully that will be useful for the rest of them as well. So I'm not sure what's the best way to start. I think probably we should give you at least a minute or two to do a quick introduction of yourself and maybe of the company without going into too much detail, but those who haven't seen the first webinar, at least they want to know who you are. So please go ahead.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much, Vas. Hello, everyone. For you that I could see you, and for all those of you that I cannot see you, but that you are connected through the YouTube video, it's such a great pleasure to be here with you. As Vas mentioned, I'm a faculty, so I've been with the X Culture since 2011 on the faculty side. I'm an edupreneur, have started several startups, mostly in the education field. And with Finnish Schools International, we're trying to revolutionize the global education system by bringing to the world the best education system, that of Finland. As you have already seen and from your research so far, education system in Finland is quite, I would say, different from most other countries, in a sense that kids love the school, and the school basically fits to every individual student need, rather than the students complying and fitting to what the school is offering. So that is the main thing. With Finnish Schools International, in addition to the state-of-the-art Finnish curriculum, we're bringing Finnish teachers, actually the best teachers in the world, at least I mean, most of the studies say that. We're bringing a state-of-the-art technology. So our school will provide a lot of technology, games-based learning, and outdoor learning, and experiential learning. These are the four main pillars of how we deliver education to the students. One interesting feature of our school is that every student has an individual learning plan which is composed together with a student, parent, teacher, a school psychologist, and everyone can monitor it on daily basis. For those struggling, we have special education teachers who basically provide extra support and adjust the learning system until those kids achieve the targets and achieve the objectives set forth at the beginning of the school year. So I think this is the intro.
Concise and to the point. Now I'm trying to decide what's the best way forward. We have two options here. Well, first of all, we have a lot of questions sent by email, but I would like to leave them till the end if we have the time. So the two models that we can use now are, one, we can either go question by question and let each student or those who are willing to say what they have to say about each of the questions. And then you would provide the feedback. Or let students talk kind of team by team. So let them talk about everything and perhaps engage in a discussion with you and then spend maybe 10, 15 minutes on one and then maybe another one and another one. So let's see if we have volunteers to do a presentation of the whole thing. And again, I don't want to call it a presentation. We don't want to get too formal here. So the idea is that the student, whoever volunteers and goes here, will basically say, okay, my team is number such and such. This is what we have in mind for the best market. For example, we recommend the United States. And so when we did the analysis of the strengths, weaknesses, and so on, we think these are your strengths, these are your weaknesses. Here we see the opportunity. This is a threat. If you need to hire people, this is what we recommend you do. This is the best promotion channel and things like that. So just very quickly, just basic ideas, and perhaps then get feedback and maybe then go with the next student and do the same thing. So do we have anyone here in the webinar room interested in kind of outlining what your team has in mind for the company so far without being too formal?
I think Laura, we have Laura who...
Laura wanted to do the presentation. Laura, are you here? Are you ready? Unless someone
yes.
to go. Okay, Laura, so then we will give the floor to you. And why don't you tell us what your team would like to propose? And hopefully you'll get some words of wisdom and advice back from the company.
Okay. We took the International Finnish School and we are the team number 255. We propose Colombia, especially Barranquilla, as a great country to internationalize. Like I'm from Barranquilla, so I have like the whole experience with the country and with the city, and also we did a survey for to know whether the parents were willing to be in this kind of education system and willing to pay also to the other schools that can be the competitors that can offer some of those types of education. There is not like a Finnish education in Barranquilla, but they are like Emilio region. That is another type of education. So we have like two schools with that kind of education that is similar to the philosophy of the Finnish education school. They are also high class. The target are high class, middle class market. The percentage in average of the monthly payment are from like 5,000 uh, USD dollars.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really high because
So that's
it's
5,000 per year.
yeah.
That is
I have
Okay. Sorry,
so
Laura, just to interrupt, I could not hear you for, you said from 5,000 to what is the highest? How much is the highest tuition school?
let me check in the paperwork. Well, the higher is 10,000 5043.
Okay,
Wow. And that's what country again?
Colombia.
Colombia, Barranquilla.
Colombia. That is, yeah, that's expensive. That's like basically what the United States costs, and kind of on the high end too. Okay, all right.
Yeah, like mostly the person who goes to that school are the kids from the political persons and such
Right.
on. But yeah, what else? Well, is an interesting country because the parents are willing to taste like a new experience with their kids, and also most of them like they are working, so they don't want homeworks in the home for the kids. So that is a really great a plus that they have. Also, the government, like the education institutions, they doesn't have like a full requirement for like foreign investors or foreign schools. They are the same requirements as for the national national investors. And I also have like 2% interest in having like this school. So I want to know how would work with the with investors there in Colombia and with the investors you already had.
Thank you, Laura. Very interesting. On the 12th of December, I'm expecting a friend of mine from Colombia. We're meeting for a week, and we're doing the LATAM strategy. He is the former rector of Universidad del Bosque in Bogota, and he was the founding rector of another university called Elite, which was founded by your former president, and he was basically the founding rector of that university. He's a very good friend of mine, and I'm really glad that you took Colombia and you took Barranquilla, because Carlos mentioned your city specifically. That could be an interesting city to start our market entry into Colombia. Barranquilla and Medellin. These two cities he mentioned specifically that would be quite interesting. In terms of how we work with local investors, we work on a joint venture agreement where we provide partial investment and the local investors do. We have an agreement a shareholder agreement where we set out responsibilities of both sides. What we provide is we provide everything. So we come and provide everything in terms of from curriculum to the teachers to the hiring to processes to basically we set up the school. The investor would be responsible to, of course, the financial side, the local investor, but also, of course, to support us with the local requirements and what else is needed there. We have a legal firm from Helsinki, Eversheds, who consults us on these agreements, and it's pretty straightforward. Basically, we have an overview, a document that we could send to you on basically what is the approach, how we work with investors. We do your feasibility study. In this case, you're doing this market entry study already for us. We could, of course, our colleagues here, they could take a look at it, a deeper look at it, and maybe change some things. And then if we present it to the investors, and if we agree, then we go on and sign the agreement, and we set a timeline on how to go further with it. So this is pretty much the I would say the standard model that we work with.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
It would be really helpful, the overview, because like the investors, I have two financial investors and one strategic investor that have all the contacts with the Ministry of Education here in Colombia. So he said it would be easier in to open a new school because he already has like the experience doing this kind of projects. So, and they, two of them, like the financial investor, wanted, like they told me that they wanted to talk to you. I don't know, like they want to contact you, but I didn't know how to make the like the bridge. So
Yes, I already sent you the email. I mean, not just to you, but to everyone. These are my emails, and you could contact me. And I would actually be glad to receive your contacts, so I could send you the overview and then facilitate this meeting.
okay, thank you.
If I can chime in here for a second, since Laura started talking about the countries, I did a quick analysis and summary. So of all the almost 200 teams that we have in the late track that are working on, this is the distribution of the countries that they recommend as the new market. So the largest number of teams recommends, in fact, by far the largest, recommends. Do you know which one it is, Alexin? Do you know which one is the most popular country? Highly recommended?
United States, maybe?
Yes, yeah. So the United States, it's a huge number of teams recommend the United States. And but then there are quite a few others, like, for example, many teams recommend Brazil, France, we have Peru, we have India, we have Romania, Russia, Ukraine is also very popular, Spain, and then like 2,000 other countries that only one team recommends at a time, or two teams. So what are your thoughts about that? First, is the United States a good idea? And then Colombia, Brazil, those other countries I named, would those be viable markets for you?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, United States, it is the hardest market, but it's very viable. But the strategy with the United States, we cannot enter, let's say, with one city and one school, and we might not be able maybe to start very quickly. Let's say 2019, we need to a deeper look into that and strategize a bit more. But definitely United States, I mean, I'm glad, because it would really help us. All the projects from all different cities would help us in our global strategy for the United States, and very helpful. Brazil, we expected Brazil, and we were very glad. We were very glad that we have so many from Brazil, because Brazil for us is quite an interesting country. It's big, it's diverse, it needs improvement in education, and I think it has a population that is open-minded enough to immerse into this new educational model. Colombia, really interesting to us, as I said, because we've been already working a little bit for the Colombian market already, and I'm really glad that we had the chance to speak to Laura and I'm impressed with her work so far, and and I'm sure that there will be a lot of other interesting ideas. I wanted to ask, what about Africa? Do we have anything from Africa and Asia? How is Africa and Asia?
Yeah, I'm looking at the numbers, and I wish I had it all the same computer so I could share the screens, but it's a different computer. So, but yes, in the order of popularity, the United States, Brazil, France, Peru, Romania, Ukraine, Colombia, India, Chile, Czech Republic, Norway, Russia, Spain, Canada, China, Hungary, Indonesia, and then smaller countries like Latvia, Lithuania, Slovenia. I don't think we have anything from Africa, surprisingly, or at least, well, there is one team that suggests Kenya, one team that suggests Ghana, one team that suggests, oh no, that's Costa Rica, so that's a different one. So it seems like there are a few ideas for Africa, but not that many. Are you interested in Africa? Was it something that you have in your plans?
Um, Africa is actually a bit later on in our plans. I was just interested to see if there are many projects. I am surprised we don't have anything from Southeast Asia. I think Malaysia. We have Indonesia, but
Yeah,
not Malaysia, I guess.
Indonesia, Hong Kong, Singapore, they come up from time to time. South Korea, so China, but only 2, 3 teams per country. Thailand, I see also.
Okay.
Well, the good news also is that we have, on the one hand, we have some clear winners, but at the same time, there is enough diversity. So my hope is that there will be also some interesting ideas from those additional analyses. One thing I really like from Laura was the survey they did. So it seems like most of the teams are trying to go and talk to parents, to teachers, to government officials to better understand how this might work. And so my hope here is that even if the teams will not give you final definitive answers as to what to do, at the very least they will provide you with the results of the survey they conducted. And again, individual team may have interviewed only 5, maybe 10 people, but when you put it all together, teams, let's say, by 5 or 10 on average, that's like 1,000 people all around the world who will give you their feedback. And so that, even if it will not give you the final answers, it will give you some kind of food for thought, something to work with as you're developing your strategy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yes. I think it's very helpful. I mean, I'm sure there will be very interesting ideas. We have Saidat. Shall we go on?
Yes. Who wants to go next? Yes. Saidat, do you want to go next? Yeah, please unmute your microphone and tell us what your team has prepared so far.
Hello, I'm Saidat, and I'm from Wilkes University, Pennsylvania, United States. Well, my team number is 123. Well, we actually recommend the United States, which is the most popular, but we just did not pick the United States. We decided to do some research to find out if there is actually a need for it, because my team believes that there needs to be a demand or a need for it before we say we're going with that particular target market.
Right.
By checking out we find out that despite the high government spending on education, when it comes to innovative instructional practices, it's still pretty below average. And then we felt the Finnish school has that innovative curriculum that is needed here. And one of the reasons why we also chose the United States is because the economic viability, the stability here, and more so the access to information, because we thought that would be an issue if we cannot actually access information for this research. So that being said, we realized that this is a large market and it is actually growing. And like I stated earlier, the strengths of the Finnish schools, the innovative curriculum that is required. However, some of the threats was cultural differences, which is actually a big one. And also, if you don't mind, I would like to look at my note.
Sure.
Also, yeah, we said the marketing strategies. However, there are lots of opportunities here because of the global demand for innovation, for thinking out of the box, problem solving, and what have you. We moved on to the market mode entry, rather. Given that our target market in the United States, we wanted to be more specific. We did a research based on some market criteria, which includes the poverty rate. Because the Finnish school is for profit, we decided to look at places where the poverty rate is quite low, and the population of kids that are between the 3 years and 17 years, because those are the people that will be in that school. We also looked at safety, because I remember on the webinar, you mentioned safety as a concern. Also, we looked at the number of enrollment in the United States and in this specific market. We thought it was good enough, where, you know, it was good enough. And also competition. We tried to check out the private schools and the public schools that are within the area and all that. So as a result of all this, we actually chose Winston-Salem in North Carolina and Mesa in Arizona.
That's where we are. It's like 20 minutes away from here.
Yes.
Vas, finally, sorry to interrupt. Finally, you can send your kids to a Finnish school.
Yeah, I was
Right.
in Greensboro, right, my city, but it's like they call it triad. It's 3 cities grew together, and so now it's basically one metropolitan area. So yes, maybe my kids will still be able to go there.
Definitely. After picking this market, we decided to also narrow it down to the target audience. In Winston-Salem, we thought it would be nice to target African Americans because of you know, there's the schools around there, and you know, the hard work and the drive that comes from African Americans in the area. Mesa, Arizona, on the other end, we decided to target the Latino population because they have the highest population when it comes to K-12 population. And given that they have that, the economy actually would be, you know, it's important in that economy to actually target that market. Well, the market entry for us, it would be, you might say it's risky. You might be expecting us to say partnering, but no, we're actually thinking of you entering the market yourself, because majority of the schools, like about 80% of the schools of private schools are religious affiliated, and partnering might just not work. I'm not sure about that, but it doesn't seem like it would. And more so, those who are not religious affiliated, because we believe, my team believe that partnering is about you bringing something to the table and the other person bringing something to the table as well. But by the time we checked your strengths compared to the main competitors who are independent schools, it doesn't seem as though there's really much that the other party brings to the table. And we thought that would be a disadvantage for the Finnish schools. So because entering the market is on your own, we'd recommend you go on your own. We decided to conduct a survey because we felt that if we can actually hit the nail on the head by knowing what parents want exactly, we might have a good chance. So we decided to conduct a survey of American parents, though it wasn't in Winston-Salem, neither was in Arizona, because I'm here in Pennsylvania, and one of my other partners is in Alabama. But then we decided to make sure that these parents fit the criteria of what we're looking at. We considered their income, we considered the educational background, because educational background of the parent actually says a lot about the choice of school. And the purpose of the survey was actually to find out the factors that are most important when it comes to the kids' education. And we found out a lot of information from them, which we actually incorporated in our brochure. And the big recommendation we made when it comes to promotion is actually the Finnish website. We actually recommend that the Finnish website needs to be upgraded to come into the market, given that we already have the information of what parents want, the environment, and American parents were kind of concerned when it comes to sport activities. I don't think Finnish school said anything about the sports aspect.
We said outdoor learning. It's very important because sports, it is considered in the outdoor learning, and it's quite a big part of what we do actually. But you're correct to emphasize the importance of it.
Yes. Other concerns was also, one other big concern was the success rate of the school. The parents want to see, probably on the website, they want to see the success stories. They want to see how much acceptance the students have had in colleges in America or international. They also want, there was also concern about the testing, because I remember some of the parents mentioned that when they get to higher institutions, they have a lot of tests. But if they're not doing that right from K to 12, or how do they cope when they get to college? And so from there, every other detail is in our report of how the website should be updated, and also search engine optimization. We thought that would be important to putting keywords on the website so that it would be easy for the website to be found on the internet when, prospective applicants are actually searching the internet. Quickly, we also moved on to the legal restrictions, rather. We found out that in with St. Salem, there are no strict legal restrictions, rather. Accreditation is optional, however, registration seems mandatory, as well as safety and health concerns. Well, accreditation in that aspect is not compulsory, but it gives the students a higher acceptance rate when they graduate from school. However, in Mesa, Arizona, teacher certification seems to be very important. However, we put the steps on how to go about it in our report. But one concern in that aspect is that standard exams are required. But I remember the Finnish school, it's not in the system. Now I want to ask, how flexible are you to actually adjust to this requirement of administering standard exams to the students from about grade 3, 4?
We have to, as I said, we have to comply with local requirements in every country that we go. If there is a local requirement, we have to. It's just the matter of how we would adjust our curriculum to incorporate these requirements, and that is always tricky because we don't want to give up in a way of our curriculum, but also we want to comply with legal requirements of a city, a state, or a country that we are in. So I think that needs further consideration from my curriculum team to see how these two could fit together. So how we could make those national requirements in terms of testing while not compromising of what we deliver. Because as you say, kids don't test in the Finnish system until 8th grade. They never test, so
Right.
testing is not part. Assessment, there is continuous assessment all the time, more than in any other system, but not an assessment as we are used to do it on a grading level, but assessment on a scale that helps students to achieve their objectives on a very personalized, not compared to anyone else. It's just assessment to help you achieve more and more, and that's it. So we have to see it, I think, further and deeper, and how we could comply with this requirement. Important. Thank you for bringing up.
All right, thank you. Then afterwards, we considered the hiring process. Given that in this market, private schools are actually free to operate, there are little or no legal restrictions when it comes to that aspect. So we felt that we don't know yet, but I'm going to throw the question to you. But we felt that it would be advisable to actually compare the average salary and benefits of teachers in America compared to the Finnish schools, the Finnish system. If it's cheaper here, and the resources would be less, the resources that will be put into it would be less here, it might be better to employ teachers here. However, some Finnish teachers will still have to come down because there will be a lot of training to be done, because it's a different system and all that.
Yeah.
So we want to know, how likely are you to employ teachers in the United States?
Basically, I think you outlined this very well. There are countries, for example, in Kosovo, 80% of the teachers will be from Finland, only 20% local. In the United States, I think it should be the other way around. We would be willing to employ local teachers, but really good local teachers, highly qualified, very good experience, and then they will be trained from our FSI Teacher Training Center, TTC, and they have to go through all the requirements that we have for teachers in terms of training and development, and only after that they are able to teach. And in this process, actually, we don't sign the contract before going through the training. So some might not go. I mean, we don't hire, but we say that you are pre-selected. Now you have to go through the training, and only at the end of the training we say yes, you now have a contract because you meet the requirements to be able to teach in our curriculum. That should be the approach in your particular case, I would say.
All right, thank you. On a final note,
just a second, can I ask a question about that? So I'm looking at the submissions, weekly submissions, and corresponding with some of the students on the email. And so a couple of teams specifically said that if you go to the United States, where wages are relatively high and comparable to those in Finland, why not then impatriate or expatriate from Finland into the United States more teachers from Finland, given that whatever salaries you will be paying to American teachers will probably be high enough to interest the Finnish teachers to come here. And so they say that it may create this aura, this kind of image of, like a true Finnish school, where, even all the teachers or most of the teachers are from Finland. So some of the people expressed concerns that, for example, if you operate, let's say, in a country where wages are lower, then yes, you can just simply get local qualified staff for a lower price, which makes sense, economically. But when you come to countries like the United States or France, why not essentially import more teachers from Finland? Why would you like to retrain locals instead?
Yes, that is, we might see that as an option. The thing is, thus in a country like United States, it is very hard to be able to sustain for a long time all on expats, I would say, on expat teachers. Yes, the salaries are high, but you have to pay even higher salaries if you bring the Finnish teachers to United States, because they still have to, you have to cover in a way their housing, you have to cover expenses, so they have more expenses. The expats always have more expenses than locals because they have to pay for 2 houses. So even if they have a house in Finland, they have to pay at least for the maintenance of it. If they may rent it, then it's a different story. It's good, but in most cases, it might be difficult because they might leave family behind in their house, and so they need that. So in that sense, we could combine. I agree with the idea that, especially at the beginning, to bring more Finnish teachers, it would really maybe have an impact on the local community of this true Finnish school. Because even in our schools that we already have, at the beginning, the parents were asking, "Is this a Finnish school or just a Finnish name?"
Right.
And so, how do you mean? What about the teachers?
Right.
Are the Finnish teachers, or so teachers are the most important thing, I think, to be called Finnish or American or British. It's a very important element. So I would agree with the students that saw that as a good business opportunity as well.
So I guess then for the students to keep in mind, from what I hear here, is that one, the total cost. So it's not only the wage. Expatriation is expensive. Probably in countries like the United States, they should also take into account the legal requirements. I mean, all the visa and work permits and stuff. Yeah. Issue. So I guess it's a viable proposition from what I hear, but do enough research to look at every aspect of the problem, right?
Yeah. Correct.
Now, Siddharth, I know that you were going to say a little bit more here, but I'm worried that we have only 15 minutes left and we have a few more people waiting. Mm-hmm. Would you be okay with giving them maybe a chance to share their
ideas? Definitely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I see we have Gabriel, we have Fabian, Eric, CW, I'm not sure what it stands for, Cameron. Did you guys wanted to talk about your ideas? Which one wants to go? Gabriel,
I think
go ahead, Gabriel. Yeah, unmute your microphone though, because we don't hear you.
Yep. Okay. So we have picked a somewhat unconventional country here. We have chosen Cyprus.
Cyprus. Okay.
Cyprus. Yes. We have chosen Cyprus because it is in between Kosovo, Albania, and the Zagreb. I don't remember the third one. We have checked for some criterias like the PISA ranking, the population growth, crime rates, and GDP per capita, finally. So we did consider Cyprus as a very strong market. It has some private schools already, but they're all in high demand. We have prospected a few cities like Nicosia and Limassol, and I would like to know your opinion about that. Cyprus is in the European market, and you know.
Cyprus is actually quite interesting. I looked at Cyprus some time ago, and it's very international. I mean, especially the university level, they have a lot of international students. It is kind of a melting pot for students from Africa, Middle East, CIS countries, in Asia. I don't know very well the pre-university market there, but it could be quite interesting. The Turkish part of it, I would say, might be problematic because the economic situation in the Turkish part is not that good. But for example, if you were to propose Nicosia, which is in the border, it could also be maybe an interesting idea to bring together students from both sides, because Nicosia is basically a divided city in that sense. So I think it's actually quite interesting and viable. Thank you for choosing it.
Oh,
But
thanks.
if I can chime in here for 1 second. So what's interesting about Cyprus, it's not quite a tax haven, but it's a country with very kind of easy business kind of conditions.
Yeah.
So
We have checked for.
Yeah, there are many companies registered in Cyprus specifically for that reason, and so there's definitely no shortage of rich people who live there on a semi-permanent basis, because that's where they register the company. So paying for the school for them first will not be a problem. They should have enough money. At the same time, they're looking for high quality education, preferably in English for their kids. And so if you target that specific population, I think you will have a nice international crowd of customers who demand the type of education that you provide and who are able to pay for whatever service you provide, whatever price you charge.
And it's also a very good looking place for the expatriates. But what I want to say is that Kosovo, for example, has a GDP per capita of $3,600, around that, and Cyprus has a 23,000 $23,000 GDP per capita. So this difference would account like for some good leverage for the school. The median price would be 5,000 euros per year, but the maximum price goes much higher than that. It goes like starting from 3,500 euros and goes up to 8,000 euros per year in a median. But there are a few schools who practice much higher prices.
So how many are those in the higher up level of prices? How many schools are there? 3-4 schools that would charge, I don't know, above 50?
Yeah, well, in Nicosia, let me check where this is. There are like 12 and 15 private schools, 12 in Nicosia and 15 in Limassol. I need to check that, or if I'm not mistaken the cities, but like 3 or 4 upper level in which.
Okay, great.
Although we have read in many blogs, mostly, that all of those schools were facing enrollment lines of 1 year or even more, which means there is still an explored market there. And well, there are a few other supportive arguments that we picked for report, but mostly I like to know that it's an unconventional choice.
It's a good
But
choice. It's also quite easy to bring Finnish teachers there. They would love to be in
yeah, I can imagine that. By researching on Cyprus, I myself would like to go there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
will pay you, the teachers. You will not have to pay them. They will pay you to go there for a semester or two.
exactly. I think so. In that sense, because bringing Finnish teachers, sending Finnish teachers abroad, it's not the easiest thing
Yeah.
because there aren't many. I mean, there is still. I mean, because it's a small country, and because the teaching profession is so popular in Finland that people don't want to. You know, once you're in the teaching, you're so well off that you don't want to risk too much. You know, you don't want. But I'm sure that they would risk for Cyprus.
And it wouldn't have to be on a permanent basis, right? So it can be literally like rotations 1 year at a time, perhaps.
1 to 2 years. We would want to have to sort of a requirement minimum 2 years because of the sustainability and yeah, and they have a good thing in Finland. Recently, Ministry of Education is allowing sabbaticals up to 3 years for teachers to teach abroad, and that is beautiful because they want to stimulate internationalization. So they want their teachers to go abroad and teach and get new insights from teaching at different levels and enrich the experience in Finland themselves. And for us, that's good because we could have more prospects, and we're already having more prospects because of that. More people applying to do this experience, to teach abroad, and that's good for us.
Yeah, why don't our teachers don't do that? There is a question that came just by email a minute ago. How many students would you need to have in a school to make it viable? So some people, so the reason they ask about that, that's the context of the market size.
Mhm.
So we talked about Cyprus, a very small country. So some people said, well, maybe you don't need a big country. Maybe you don't need a country like Brazil or the United States. As long as you have enough people in one city for one school, that's all you need to start operating. And so the question is, what would be the minimum size of a school to make it viable?
It's 250. 250 is the minimum for the smallest school that we have planned. But on average, we would ask for 450 to 500. That would be the average school. In countries, for example, I'm flying to Dubai on Sunday, and I have meetings there throughout the week. If we're entering Dubai, then in Dubai it will be 2,800 students.
Wow, that's
It will be a huge school. Because the smallest school there is 1,500 students, unless it's only primary or nursery or something like that. But if it's a comprehensive K-12, then they're all above 1,500 students in a school. In Kuwait, the plan is 1,400 students. So we're building a school for 1,000, and we're building a nursery for 400 kids the first year. So we're entering there with nursery in the first year, which is a bit different strategy than how we have approached other countries. But because there is so demand, as Gabriel said, with Cyprus, it's the same in Kuwait. The upper level schools, they all have very high demand and enrollment lines in most of these schools. So immediately in the third year, we're planning to reach this 1,400 students. Just to mention Kuwait, one more thing, government will be providing the land, and a government-backed bank is providing the loan for us to build the building, and the government is providing the land for 20 years leased. So they don't sell the land. You never own the land. You never own anything in Kuwait, but they give you on lease, and after 20 years, you can negotiate another lease, or they may take it over as well. And the other thing is that we have to have a local partner there that owns 50%. 50.1%. So the majority should be a Kuwaiti. And so there are, I'm mentioning this just to tell how interesting and how different countries are, and how different our approach should be depending on the country.
Does it present a problem that the local partner should own 1/2 plus 1 vote? For you, is there any risk or any consideration that you?
Yes, that is the thing. But what we have overcome this through the legal provisions. We basically what we have there, and we have the veto right. So we have some protective provisions on in terms of liquidation preference, in terms of veto rights. So basically, through this agreement, through the shareholder agreement that we have with Kuwaiti partners, we are able to overcome the possible problems that may arise from the voting power that they have.
And I assume the way it will work is it will be set up as a completely separate company, right? So if something goes completely wrong, the worst that can happen, you may have some problems in Kuwait, but it will not spread to other locations that you operate.
That's true. Finnish Schools International, LLC from Finland will own their 46.5% of the company. And it is a separate company in Kuwait. Through our legal provisions, you're correctly to assume that we have limited the liability only for the Kuwait and only for the company, the new company, Finnish School of Kuwait, that we have created together with the partners.
So with all the benefits and concessions the government provides, the loan, the land, it seems like it's a very good deal, and you can't really lose. I mean, even if something goes wrong. Yeah.
In a way, yes. I mean, no one can lose here, because even if something goes wrong with this, the government will seize the property, which is still theirs. So basically, we may have paid, I don't know, 2 years of loan or 3 years of loan, and if we fail to do that, then the government will take over the building and the land again. So basically, they have the property, they have the real estate, they have the collateral anyway. It's theirs, and they could utilize it for other purposes always. So the government will not lose. We will not lose in a sense, because the risk is quite low in this.
Right. So the worst that can happen, you can go back to 2017 essentially, right?
Exactly. And well, we're investing already some of our own money, but we're investing, for example, in our site, we're investing less than €1 million in all this venture, which is not that big. Of course, it is still a big money, but I mean, the most we can use is this. So.
Yeah. So now we don't have much time left. So Gabriel, Fabian, Eric, Cameron, Saidat, let's do the following. Let's do like a quick blitz, I guess, question, answer, question, answer. So if you guys have any other ideas you would like to share with Mr. Berisha and hear his feedback. So instead of a whole presentation, just, like one thing at a time. So you would like, if you would like to do that, we have a few minutes left, so please do it now. Yes, go ahead, Gabriel.
Do you usually work with other holdings, like educational holdings, or single investors?
We would prefer to work with educational holdings. So far, mostly we're working with single investors.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, one quick question that just came from Elizabeth Bufking. She says that she chose, or her team chose, Indonesia, Jakarta, and so they believe it's a viable location, but they cannot find much on the regulations of education systems there. So do you know much about possible barriers to operating in Jakarta, in Indonesia?
Unfortunately, I don't know much about Indonesia. It's an interesting market. I thought it would come up, and I thought it would be quite interesting, but I don't know much. It was quite liberal, the higher education. I actually wrote a half paper about Indonesian higher education some time ago, 6 years ago, and I researched the higher education quite a bit at that time. It was quite liberal for private providers to enter the market, but I don't know how it is now, and what's the situation with pre-university.
Yeah, and it seems to me that it's a good opportunity for the team to do their research and inform the company, so rather than asking. Cameron, you wanted to say a few words, please go ahead.
Yes. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Yes, I have a quick question. I'll just get straight to it. How much of the budget is dedicated to the marketing? Is it a higher priority to aggressively expand in these new markets to kind of get the word out? Or is it pretty minimal and you're kind of more relying on the results to speak for themselves? Thank you.
Thank you. So far, the marketing hasn't been our biggest percentage in the budget, because what is happening is that we're using mostly PR. We're working with a local media publisher, and we're publishing news about Finnish education, not necessarily even our school. Only when we are, close to launching it, we're starting saying, oh, you heard about this good Finnish education? Now it is in your town. And then we use social media mostly. We sponsor several events that are related to our values. So we only focus on those that have values in common with us. So we don't, for example, I had a request to do product placement for a very big TV show, for example, in Kosovo, but the guys don't really fit with the values of what we're promoting with a Finnish school. Although half of population would watch them. I mean, they have millions of viewers, but we don't want to associate our brand with them.
Sure. Yeah, abide by some standards. Can I ask one more quick question?
Go ahead, yes.
Okay, thank you. So the host nation that my team had chosen is Indonesia and Jakarta. And I'm sorry?
Yeah, no, that must have been your team member then.
Yes, sir. And my question to you is this. I know one big challenge that Indonesian education has right now is people lacking strong skills in English or just the education quality in general. So I know it'd be a challenge to find local teachers in that area. And I was wondering if FIS is open to a training program for the Indonesian teachers in this case to kind of speed up the process in having more trained local faculty that do teach according to the Finnish school education program.
Cameron, you pointed out a very important issue. For example, in Indonesia, the market entry strategy could come that we actually establish training center there first before we open the school. So we say we're starting a training center here for 1 or 2 years. We train local teachers. When from those local teachers that get immersed into the Finnish education system, we select the best to be able to teach at our school or schools if we see Indonesia as a whole. Because I think in Indonesia, the potential is that we might have not only one, it might be that we might have more than one schools. Jakarta, very important, but could be that, other cities, because it's such a big country. So that could be the strategy as well.
Okay. All right, great. All right, thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, so I think we're pretty much out of time. So unless you have one last burning question, so people here in the room, so ask it now. Otherwise, we will be stopping for today. So anyone has a quick question, raise your hand if you do. Gabriel, yes, you the last one, so you have a minute.
Okay, thank you. Well, we have checked that religious education is quite important in Cyprus, for example. How do you feel about that?
We feel good about that. In Finland, religious education is also an important element. So they do religious studies from the grade 3. What we've done in Kosovo, instead of religious education, we're offering ethics and philosophy. So kids will learn ethics and philosophy from the grade 3. So they will learn a lot about religions, not just not from the point of view of practitioner, but from the philosophical and ethics point of view. If in Cyprus it's more of an practicing, we of course we shouldn't have problem on that. We just have to make sure that those who, for example, in Cyprus, they are Christian Orthodox, those kids who are not Christian Orthodox, not to be maybe immersed into a religious education that promotes only the Christian Orthodox values. So we're very open to, I mean, we're a liberal school system. It's not the idea to promote religion per se, but of course we think religions and especially ethics are very important in terms of promoting the values of mankind, of humanism that we want to instill in our kids.
So teach about religions, but not necessarily promote a religion.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so it is 10 a.m., so I have to prepare for the next webinar. We have a couple more meetings today. So thank you so much, everyone, for participating here today. Obviously, first and foremost, LH team, thank you so much for taking the time from your busy schedule to meet with our students. But also thank you so much the students who were able to attend today. I know many of you have classes at this time or other things, so glad you could find a minute. If you have any additional questions or if you would like to receive any additional feedback, you have two options. You can send the question to admin@xculture.org. We will forward it to the company for the feedback and comments. Or you can send your work always to coaching@xculture.org for feedback from the coaches. And as you know, we have 35 very capable individuals. In fact, one of them is right here with us, Fabian. So who have participated in XCulture before. They did very well. They had received some additional training on how to provide feedback, what a good answer is. And so if you would like to get their feedback, just as I said, send the email to coaching@xculture.org. And hopefully within a day or two, you will get some professional feedback from the coaches as well. I'm going to stop here. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for participation.